The chrome-plated shuttle doors hissed open with surgical precision, revealing the most prestigious military academy in the known galaxy. Commander Zara Chen stepped onto the gleaming platform, her worn combat boots clicking against polished metal that probably cost more than her entire planet's annual defense budget. "Welcome to Nexus Prime Academy, human," sneered a voice dripping with aristocratic disdain. Zara turned to face a towering figure in a pristine blue uniform adorned with enough medals to fund a small war. This was Sub-Admiral Keth Valonar, heir to one of the galaxy's oldest military dynasties. His scale green skin caught the artificial sunlight streaming through the Academy's crystal dome, and his reptilian eyes held the kind of cold calculation that came from centuries of inherited privilege. "Thank you for the warm welcome, your scaliness," Zara replied, her voice sweet enough to cause diabetes. "I'm absolutely thrilled to be surrounded by so much refinement." Several alien cadets nearby snickered at her obvious sarcasm. Keth's nostrils flared, a dangerous sign among his species. "You will address me as Sub-Admiral Deathworlder. Your kind may have impressed the Council with your crude violence, but here, breeding and intellect matter more than brute strength." Zara's smile widened, showing perfectly human teeth that somehow looked predatory in the Academy's sterile light. "Oh, absolutely, Sub-Admiral. I'm sure your breeding is impeccable. Your parents must be so proud of their little lizard." The silence that followed was deafening. In the galactic hierarchy, insulting someone's lineage was considered a grave offense, especially when delivered by someone for what they called a death world, those nightmare planets where evolution had gone absolutely insane. Captain Nexus Thorwell, the Academy's commandant, materialized between them like a diplomatic ghost. His silver hair and weathered face spoke of decades navigating political minefields far more dangerous than any battlefield. "Cadet Chun, perhaps we should proceed with orientation," he suggested, his tone carefully neutral. "Sub-Admiral Valonar, I believe you have duties elsewhere." Keth's eyes narrowed to golden slits. "Indeed, I look forward to observing how long our exotic recruit survives the rigorous standards of Nexus Prime." As he stalked away, his entourage of well-bred sycophants trailing behind like expensive debris, Zara felt a familiar weight settle in her chest. The same feeling she carried since leaving Earth, the burden of representing an entire species that the galaxy saw as barely civilized barbarians. "Cadet Chun," Captain Thorwell said quietly, "a word of advice. The Sub-Admiral comes from a family that has produced 17 galactic senators, 43 fleet admirals, and 2 supreme chancellors. His influence extends far beyond this academy. And I come from a family of farmers who fought off alien invasions with farming equipment," Zara replied, shouldering her kit bag. "Different kinds of pedigree, Captain." The next few hours passed in a blur of administrative procedures, medical examinations, and endless forms designed to catalog every aspect of her existence. The other cadets gave her a wide berth, whispering among themselves in languages that sounded like music compared to the harsh consonants of human speech. Her dormitory assignment came as no surprise, a cramped single room in the oldest wing of the Academy, far from the luxurious suites occupied by the children of galactic nobility. The message was clear: know your place, human. That evening, in the vast dining hall that could have housed a small city, Zara sat alone at a corner table, picking at something that was supposedly nutritionally optimized but tasted like recycled cardboard. The conversations around her buzzed with excitement about upcoming training exercises, family connections, and summer plans involving exotic vacation planets. "Mind if we join you?" Zara looked up to see 3 aliens approaching her table. The speaker was tall and willowy, with skin that shifted colors like oil on water. Behind her stood a stocky, bear-like creature covered in dense fur, and a third being that looked like someone had crossed an octopus with a mathematician. "I'm Lyra Starwind," the shapeshifter continued. "This is Brock Ironside and Quinn Mindweaver. We're what you might call the island of misfit toys around here." "Let me guess," Zara said, gesturing to empty chairs. "You're not from prestigious families either." Brock laughed, a deep rumbling sound. "My people are miners from the asteroid belt colonies. Hardly the cream of galactic society. And my species just discovered space travel 50 years ago," Quinn added, his tentacles forming complex patterns as he spoke. We're still considered technological infants. While I, Lyra said with theatrical flourish, come from a planet of performers and artists, useful for entertainment, but hardly admirable material according to the establishment. For the first time since arriving, Zara felt something approaching relief. So were the charity cases. Scholarship students, technically, Lyra corrected. But yes, we're here to add diversity to the Academy's promotional materials while the real candidates, the ones with the right bloodlines, prepare to inherit the galaxy. Their conversation was interrupted by the sharp crack of breaking ceramics. Across the hall, Sub-Admiral Keth stood over a shattered serving dish, his uniform pristine despite the mess at his feet. A small, bat-like creature cowered nearby, clearly the cause of the accident. Clumsy fool. Keth's voice carried across the suddenly quiet dining hall. Do you have any idea what this dish costs? More than your pathetic planet's entire gross domestic product. The bat creature's wings trembled as it began picking up the pieces with tiny, delicate hands. Several other aristocratic cadets gathered around, laughing at the display. Zara's chair scraped against the floor as she stood. Zara, don't, Lyra whispered urgently. That's Pip Swiftclaw. Her people are basically indentured to Keth's family. There's nothing you can do. But Zara was already moving, her combat boots loud against the polished floor. The dining hall held its collective breath as the human Deathworlder approached the circle of galactic elite. Having trouble there, Sub-Admiral? Zara asked conversationally, crouching down to help Pip gather the ceramic shards. These accidents happen. I'm sure your vast intellect can handle a little broken pottery. Keth's scales flushed a deeper green, a sign of rising anger among the species. This does not concern you, human. The creature owes my family a debt that cannot be repaid by your crude sympathy. The creature has a name, Zara said, standing slowly with pieces of the dish in her hands. And from what I can see, she's been working pretty hard to pay off whatever debt you think she owes. Think. Keth's voice rose dangerously. Her planet defaulted on a mining contract. My family's company owns the rights to her people's labor for the next century. She exists at our discretion. The casual cruelty in his words sent ice through Zara's veins. On Earth, they had a name for this kind of arrangement, and it had been abolished centuries ago. That's fascinating, she said, her voice deceptively calm. And here I thought slavery was illegal under galactic law. The gasps that echoed through the dining hall were audible from the kitchen. Even the serving staff had stopped to listen. How dare you? Keth stepped forward, his height advantage making him loom over the human. My family has served the galaxy for millennia while your species was still throwing rocks at each other. We understand the complexities of interstellar commerce that primitive minds cannot grasp. Zara tilted her head, studying him with the kind of detached curiosity she might show a particularly interesting insect. You know what's funny about rocks, Sub-Admiral? When you throw them hard enough, they can bring down even the biggest targets. The threat was subtle but unmistakable. Around them, the gathered cadets began backing away, sensing the electricity in the air. Are you threatening me, Deathworlder? Keth's hand moved to the ceremonial blade at his side, a weapon passed down through generations of his noble lineage. Oh, no. Zara laughed. The sound sharp and bright in the tense silence. I'm just making conversation about geology. Though I have to say, your family's understanding of commerce sounds remarkably similar to what my people would call organized crime. That was the line too far. Keth's blade cleared its sheath in one fluid motion, the monomolecular edge gleaming with deadly purpose. The other aristocratic cadets cheered, eager to see the upstart human put in her place. But Zara didn't flinch. Instead, she smiled that same predatory smile from earlier, and for a moment, everyone in the dining hall remembered exactly why humans were called Deathworlders. Sub-Admiral Keth Valonar. Captain Thorwell's voice cut through the tension like a plasma cutter through steel. Stand down immediately. The commandant strode into the circle, his face thunderous. Behind him came several other instructors, their expressions ranging from shocked to grimly amused. This human insulted my family's honor, Keth protested, though he reluctantly sheathed his weapon. Galactic tradition demands satisfaction. Galactic tradition demands that Academy cadets settle their differences through proper channels. Thorwell replied coldly, "Not with weapons in the dining hall." "Then let her face the trial of merit," called out another aristocratic cadet. "If she thinks she's so superior to proper breeding, let her prove it." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. The trial of merit was an ancient tradition, a series of challenges designed to test every aspect of a cadet's abilities. It was typically reserved for graduation ceremonies, not personal disputes. Zara felt the weight of hundreds of eyes upon her. She could walk away, apologize, and spend the rest of her time at the academy being ignored by the elite and pitted by everyone else. Or, "I accept," she said clearly, her voice carrying across the silent hall. The explosion of conversation that followed was deafening. Keth's expression shifted from anger to something approaching satisfaction. "Excellent," he purred. "I shall personally oversee your examination. I do hope you've made peace with whatever crude deities your species worships." As the crowd began to disperse, chattering excitedly about the upcoming spectacle, Zara felt a small hand tug at her sleeve. Pip Swiftclaw looked up at her with large, luminous eyes. "Thank you," the bat creature whispered. "No one has ever stood up for my people before." "Don't thank me yet," Zara replied, watching Keth's retreating form. "I might have just made things worse for both of us." But as she returned to her table where her new friends waited with expressions of shock and admiration, Zara felt something she hadn't experienced since leaving Earth. The familiar rush of adrenaline that came before a really good fight. The galaxy's elite thought they could break her. They were about to learn that humans didn't break easily. In fact, they tended to break everything else instead. The trial of merit will begin in 3 days. She intended to make them count. 3 days of preparation felt like 3 minutes when you were planning to humiliate the entire galactic aristocracy. Zara spent every waking hour in the Academy's training facilities, much to the amusement of the elite cadets who took turns watching her pathetic attempts at preparation. "Look at the little human," laughed Vex Goldscale, Keth's closest ally, as Zara practiced combat maneuvers in the gymnasium. "Does she think she can overcome centuries of superior breeding with crude physical exercise?" What they couldn't see was the method behind her apparent madness. While they assumed she was desperately trying to catch up to their refined skills, Zara was actually studying them. Every sneer, every casual display of ability, every arrogant assumption about her limitations was being cataloged and filed away for future use. The morning of the trial arrived with all the pomp and ceremony the Academy could muster. The great arena had been transformed into a multi-level proving ground, with challenges ranging from tactical simulations to personal combat. Hundreds of spectators filled the tiered seating, including several high-ranking officials who had traveled specifically to witness the Deathworld humans' inevitable failure. "Ladies, gentlemen, and distinguished beings," announced Professor Vecht, the Academy's chief instructor, his forearms gesturing grandly toward the arena floor. "Today we witness a trial of merit between Sub-Admiral Keth Valonar, scion of the noble House Valonar, and Cadet Zara Chen of the Terran Colonial Defense Force." The crowd's cheers were decidedly one-sided. The elite sections roared approval for Keth, while scattered applause came from the scholarship students and a few sympathetic instructors. Keth entered the arena wearing ceremonial armor that had been crafted by master artisans 3 centuries ago. Every plate was perfectly fitted, every surface polished to mirror brightness. He moved with the fluid grace of someone trained from birth in the arts of war and politics. Zara's entrance was considerably less impressive. She wore standard Academy training gear and carried equipment that looked like it had seen better decades. But her eyes held a cold fire that made even some of the aristocrats shift uncomfortably in their seats. "The trial consists of 5 challenges," Professor Vecht continued. "Strategic thinking, technological mastery, physical prowess, leadership capability, and personal combat. Victory requires winning 3 of the 5 contests." Captain Thorwell stepped forward, his expression carefully neutral. "Contestants may choose their order of challenges. Sub-Admiral Valonar, as a challenge party, you may select first." Keth's smile was pure predatory satisfaction. Strategic thinking. Let the human demonstrate the primitive nature of her people's tactical understanding. The first challenge took place in a holographic simulation chamber where contestants had to command a fleet action against superior forces. Keth's performance was textbook perfect. He utilized classic maneuvers taught in the finest military academies, conserved his forces carefully, and achieved victory through superior positioning and firepower concentration. When Zara's turn came, she studied the scenario for exactly 30 seconds before launching into what could only be described as controlled chaos. Instead of engaging enemy fleet directly, she used her ships as bait, luring them into an asteroid field where she triggered a cascading mine explosion that destroyed half the opposing force in minutes. The remainder she picked off with hit-and-run tactics that violated every principle of civilized warfare. Crude but effective, Professor Vect announced. The first challenge goes to Cadet Chun. The shocked silence from the elite sections was deafening. This wasn't supposed to happen. Deathworlders were supposed to be strong but stupid, good for manual labor and suicide missions, but lacking the intellectual capacity for strategic thinking. A fluke, Keth declared, though his scales had shifted to a paler shade of green. Proceed to technological mastery. The second challenge required contestants to jury-rig a faster-than-light communication device from spare parts within 30 minutes. Keth approached the problem methodically, using advanced theoretical principles and precision engineering to construct an elegant solution that functioned exactly as designed. Zara looked at the pile of components for about 5 minutes, then began what looked like random destruction. She cannibalized 3 different devices, bypassed for safety protocols, and created something that resembled a technological nightmare held together with prayer and determination. When activated, it not only established communication, but also somehow boosted the signal strength by 300%. How? Professor Vect asked, genuinely puzzled. Back home, we call it percussive maintenance, Zara replied cheerfully. Sometimes you just have to hit things until they work better. Challenge 2 to Cadet Chun, Vect announced, his voice betraying his amazement. The elite sections had gone completely silent now. In the scholarship area, however, excited whispers were beginning to spread. Brock was pumping his furry fist in the air, while Lyra's skin had shifted to brilliant gold with excitement. Keth's composure was starting to crack. Physical prowess, he snapped. Let us see how your crude strength serves you against proper training. The third challenge was an obstacle course designed to test speed, agility, and endurance. Keth navigated it with aristocratic grace, his movements efficient and precise. His time was respectable, well within Academy standards. Zara approached the course like a natural disaster given human form. Where Keth had gracefully leaped over barriers, she smashed through them. Where he had carefully climbed walls, she found ways to go around, under, or straight through them. Her path of destruction looked like someone had fired a cannonball through the carefully designed obstacles. Her time was 40% faster than Keth's. The course is designed to be navigated, not demolished. Keth protested. The rules said complete the course, Zara replied, not even breathing hard. They didn't specify how. Challenge 3 to Cadet Chun, Professor Vect said, though he looked like he was questioning his life choices. The crowd was buzzing now. The impossible was happening. The Deathworld human was actually winning. In the elite sections, angry mutterings were growing louder, while the scholarship students had begun openly cheering. This is ridiculous, shouted Vect's gold scale from the stands. She's cheating. How exactly? Captain Thorwell asked coldly, his voice carrying across the arena. She's following the rules as stated. If the rules are inadequate, perhaps we should examine who wrote them. Keth was visibly struggling now, his aristocratic mask slipping to reveal something approaching panic. Leadership capability, he said, his voice tight with control. Surely even a Deathworlder cannot corrupt this challenge. The fourth challenge required each contestant to motivate a team of lower-ranking cadets to complete a difficult group task. Keth's team consisted of eager sycophants who hung on his every word and executed his orders with mechanical precision. Their performance was flawless, coordinated, and utterly predictable. Zara's team was made up of the Academy's misfits, scholarship students, late admissions, and social outcasts. Instead of giving orders, she spent the first 10 minutes asking questions, listening to ideas, and encouraging suggestions that the aristocratic cadets would have dismissed immediately. All right, team, she said finally, Here's what we're going to do. Pip, your people are natural flyers. You take point and guide us through the aerial section. Quinn, you're the smartest mathematician here, so you handle the calculation-heavy parts. Lyra, you're our wild card. Adapt to whatever we need. Brock, you and I will handle the heavy lifting. What followed was not the precise orchestrated performance of Keth's team, but something far more dangerous. Improvisation guided by genuine cooperation. When they hit obstacles, they adapted. When someone struggled, others compensated. When they succeeded, they celebrated together. Their time wasn't just better than Keth's team. It shattered the Academy record. Challenge for the Cadet Chun, Professor Vecht announced, his voice barely above a whisper. The arena erupted. The scholarship sections exploded in cheers, while the elite areas descended into chaos. Several aristocratic families were demanding investigations, rule clarifications, and immediate disqualification of the human contestant. Keth stood in the center of the arena, his perfect armor now seeming like an elaborate costume rather than a symbol of power. His scaled face had gone completely pale, and his golden eyes held a kind of desperate fury. "Personal combat," he said, his voice carrying across the noise. "Here, at least, breeding will tell. No amount of crude cunning can overcome centuries of martial training." The arena fell silent again as weapons were distributed. Keth selected a plasma sword identical to the ceremonial blade carried by his ancestors, its energy field humming with lethal precision. The weapon was worth more than most planets' defense budgets and had been wielded by 17 generations of Valonar nobility. Zara picked up a simple training baton, the kind used by first-year cadets. "You may select proper weaponry," Professor Vecht offered, clearly concerned. "This will do fine," Zara replied, testing the weight of the baton with casual swings. The combat circle was drawn, the rules established, and the contestants took their positions. Keth moved into a classical dueling stance, his plasma sword held with textbook precision. Across from him, Zara simply stood relaxed, the training baton loose in her grip. "Begin!" Professor Vecht shouted. Keth struck immediately, his blade tracing perfect arcs through the air in a combination that would have felled any normal opponent in seconds. His technique was flawless, his timing impeccable, his form absolutely perfect. Zara wasn't there when his strikes arrived. She moved like liquid lightning, flowing around his attacks without apparent effort. The training baton became an extension of her will, deflecting energy strikes that should have been impossible to block, creating openings that shouldn't have existed. "Impossible," Keth snarled, pressing his attack with increasing desperation. "Stand still and fight with honor." "Honor?" Zara laughed, the sound bright and terrible. "You want to talk about honor? Let's discuss your family's business practices. Let's talk about debt slavery and inherited privilege. Let's talk about what honor actually means." Each word was punctuated by another perfectly timed counterattack. Keth's plasma sword, for all its technological superiority, couldn't hit what it couldn't predict. And Zara fought like nothing in his experience, not with the refined techniques taught in academies, but with the brutal pragmatism of someone who had learned warfare from necessity rather than tradition. The training baton caught his wrist in a strike that should have been impossible. The plasma sword went flying, its energy field sputtering out as it hit the arena floor. Keth found himself on his knees, the simple baton pressed against his throat, held by a human who hadn't even broken a sweat. "Yield," Zara said quietly, her voice carrying to every corner of the silent arena. For a moment, time seemed suspended. The scion of one of the galaxy's most powerful families knelt defeated before a human from a backwater Deathworld, his centuries of breeding and training proven worthless against simple competence and determination. "I yield," Keth whispered, the words torn from his throat like physical wounds. The arena exploded in chaos. The scholarship sections had gone completely wild, cheering and chanting Zara's name. The elite areas were in uproar, with several families demanding investigations and crying foul. In the midst of it all, Professor Vecht's voice somehow carried across the noise. "The trial of merit is concluded. Victory to Cadet Zara Chen by 4 challenges to 1. As Zara helped Keth to his feet, she leaned close enough for only him to hear. "Next time you want to play power games with someone's life, remember this moment. Remember that all your breeding and privilege couldn't save you from a farmer's daughter with a stick. Later, as the arena emptied and the officials departed to file their reports, Zara found herself surrounded by her friends and a growing crowd of previously ignored cadets. Pip Swiftclaw perched on her shoulder, her small hand still trembling with excitement. "What happens now?" Lyra asked, her skin shifting through a rainbow of colors. "You've just humiliated the most powerful family in the Academy." "Now," Zara said, looking out at the faces around her, scholarship students, outcasts, misfits, and dreamers who've been told they would never measure up to their betters. "We show them that breeding isn't everything. That competence matters more than pedigree. That the galaxy is changing, whether they like it or not." Captain Thorwell approached through the crowd, his expression unreadable. "Cadet Chun, a word?" As they stepped aside, he studied her with eyes that had seen decades of political maneuvering. "You realize what you've done here today?" "I want a fair fight," Zara replied simply. "You've started a revolution," he corrected. "Every underestimated being in this academy is going to look at what happened today and remember that the impossible is just another word for something that hasn't been done yet." He paused and smiled, the first genuine expression she'd seen from him since arriving. "The galaxy won't know what hit it." As night fell over Nexus Prime Academy, word of the day's event spread through quantum communication networks across the known galaxy. In mansions and palaces, the elite raged at the disruption of the natural order. In mining colonies and frontier worlds, beings who had never dared to dream began planning their own children's applications to the Academy. And in a simple dormitory room in the oldest wing of the most prestigious military academy in the galaxy, a human from a Deathworld sat cleaning a simple training baton and planning her next lesson for the galaxy's self-appointed masters. They had tried to break her. Instead, she had broken the very foundations of their world. The revolution had begun.